Hi there, welcome along to another of my rowing technique hacks videos. This is the second in the series, so make sure and check out the first one if you haven't already. A few tips today are going to include how to make sure your arms are nice and relaxed as you come into the catch, and how to hold that forward lean as you take the drive, and a few more. Make sure and check out the description for a full list of what we're talking about today and some links to other bits that I mention. So let's get started with those nice, relaxed, loose arms at the front. So as you recover from the stroke into the front of the machine at the catch, it's a great idea to have loose, relaxed arms, okay? You don't want to be tense and rigid. If you see photos or video footage of you rowing and as you're coming into the front of the machine, your muscles are popping like Popeye because you're so tense, ready to take the next stroke, you're kind of wasting energy, and there's a chance you're going to interrupt that power flow from your legs into the machine. So it's a better idea to use the recovery as a recovery, okay? And be nice, loose and relaxed as you come into the catch, ready to then brace as you then take the next stroke. So how do you stay relaxed? Well, you have to kind of think about that kind of thinking, right, I'm going to be relaxed and loose. And what I do is I just think zombie, okay? Have you ever seen a tense zombie? No, they don't have to worry about work, they don't worry about kids, the future or anything. They're all just kind of nice and loose. So you think, put your arms out in front of you and just pretend to be a zombie. Okay, so that kind of gives you the loose shoulders and the loose arms. So fair enough, you've got floppy wrists, which you don't want when you're rowing. But if you just think, zombie, okay? So pick up the handle, then as you're coming into the recovery, just think zombie, nice and loose. Zombie, and then ready to brace against the next stroke. So it's just, if nothing else, it's a kind of a cue for your brain to think about. Just to think, zombie. And it's a way to make you just concentrate on being loose rather than tense if you find that that's what you're like. Okay, next tip, we're going to continue with the childish way to discuss things. So sometimes what you'll see is you'll get yourself into the front of the machine in a beautiful position, your arms are straight, your shins are vertical, your back's in that forward lean, you've got a nice neutral chin and you're ready to go. But then at the last minute, suddenly it all goes wrong, the back swings back and then you drive and suddenly you've lost a whole bunch of power, you're taking it through the lower back and it's just, the world ends, okay? Here's what I do to try and prevent that, okay? Or at least to try and concentrate on keeping that forward lean at the front. Number one, you know the kind of charity band things that you get? Remember we used to all have the yellow ones for Lance Armstrong. That was a while ago. Get one of them and strap it to the top of the monitor, okay? The reason I say these is just because they are actually kind of the right width and they make things nice and tight and secure. Next, get a Lego character, okay? This is Heisenberg, made him with the kids. And then strap your Lego character behind the monitor with the head just poking up across the back of the monitor. And then when you start rowing, just make eye contact with your Lego character, okay? So you come into the front, eye contact, and then you take the drive, holding eye contact the whole way through the stroke. And that will help you hold the forward lean. What it'll certainly do is stop that thing where people will look up at the sky and then take the stroke, which almost instantly breaks that backswing because they're looking up at the sky. Everything follows. So if you make eye contact with whatever Lego character you've created, it just holds your back in that forward lean for just that little moment that you need to get the power up from your legs and into the handle. And then because he's strapped to the top of the machine, it can help with that sitting tall, kind of powerful posture, instead of being slumped down, looking at the throat to the machine. So just keep eye contact with your little Lego character all the way through the stroke, and it'll help your posture and help you to hold that forward lean into the 1 o'clock position. Now, while we're on posture, I want to quickly talk about something that can completely derail good posture and how to get round it, okay? So, when I come into the catch, I want to be up on my sit bones with my hips tilted forwards. That puts me into that nice 1 o'clock forward lean position to then be able to take the stroke and get all the power up through my body into the flywheel. What I don't want to be is hips rolled backwards, all tucked under, which then means that as I take the stroke, it all goes through my lower back and I don't have that efficiency of power going through. Now, what usually causes that kind of hips rolled back thing is when people row and then they use the foot straps to tug themselves forwards again. Okay, so if I take just a normal stroke, up on my sit bones, and then back and forwards, this is nice. But if I then tug on the foot straps, what happens is my hips roll under, my knees pop up, and I'm suddenly then having to try and do this weird maneuver to get back up onto my sit bones again. Okay? Now what causes that? Well, most of the time what it is that people take the stroke and they don't get all of the leg drive out by the time they get to the back of the machine. So they get to the back, they have to stop themselves from flying backwards by tugging against the straps. Or they don't get the handle away and that hip rock forwards to have the momentum to take them to the front of the machine again. So they're kind of stuck having to pull themselves forwards on the foot straps. How do we get around this? Well, it should be kind of make sense. Just remove the idea of the foot straps. So you completely take your feet out the foot straps, and therefore there's absolutely no way that you can pull against them in order to get yourself to the front of the machine. However, if you've never done that before, the chances of you taking a stroke and flying into the treadmill or the person behind you are quite high. So what I recommend is that you loosen them enough that you can fit your hand underneath the strap, okay? And what that means is that they're loose, and so you should be able to get that feeling of rowing strapless where you need to get the entire leg drive done, because that way you're not gonna fall off the back, and then you can then use the proper technique to get yourself forwards. But if everything goes wrong and you're like, oh, it's the end, you can quickly flick your feet up and stop yourself falling on the ground. So the principle's this: you take the drive, get the legs down before the arms come in. And what that does is it gets all the power from your legs into the machine. And the momentum from your legs has all gone into the flywheel. And therefore you don't have to brace against the straps in order to stop yourself flying off the back of the machine. And then when it comes to the recovery, the important part is to get that handle away from you and then rock back over your hips. So if you finish your stroke with a good posture, because you're looking at your Lego man, and then handle away over your knees and the forward lean, the tilt over your hips. That's all you need to begin the momentum of your body shift, to then bend your knees once the handle goes over your knees, to then effortlessly slide to the front of the machine. Now, not once did I have to brace against the foot straps, not once did I go flying off the back, and not once did I get stranded at the back of the machine going, how do I get forwards without pulling on the foot straps? So give it a try, and eventually, once you're used to it and you know you're quite comfortable, you can just take your feet completely out the straps and then do lots of 30-minute, 20 strokes per minute sessions with your feet completely out the straps and get used to it. And it must be said, in terms of working on your posture and your core workout at the back when you're out the straps, it's fantastic, okay? If you're doing that tug thing to pull yourself forwards, you're really missing out on that core workout that you get at the back of the machine. So rowing strapless is a great way to teach you to not yank against those foot straps. But what happens when you get up to a stroke rate where frankly it becomes a little bit more worrying if you're not in the straps? Like for me, if I get to run about 26 to 28, the chances of me falling off the back of the machine if I'm not in the foot straps starts to get quite high. So in order to make sure that you're not excessively pulling against those straps at the back and you're still getting the full connection to the foot plate through the drive, what I do is I get a piece of paper, roll it up into a nice tube. It's doesn't have to be a nice tube, but just a nice tight tube, and stick it under the ball of your foot in the foot straps, okay? With an overhang to the side. Because now what happens is if you lift your foot up, the piece of paper falls out. So all you have to do is get into position, row, and then make sure you're connected with both feet. So I'm up at my 27, 28 strokes a minute, and I'm making sure that I'm fully connected with the foot plate and not flicking my feet up. Because if I do, my piece of paper falls out, and I know that I've yanked against the foot straps. Now, I've been doing this for a while, but only a couple of days ago I saw a post from Row2K talking about exactly the same thing, except they use a dollar bill. And I think it's a great idea, because what you do is you go into like a boat club where there's 20 of you or something, and all of you put a dollar bill or like a £5 note, whatever, under your foot, and you all row a session together. And then one by one, someone will get it wrong, and all these dollar bills or whatever will fall onto the floor. And then the last man standing, the last man or woman with a dollar bill still tucked under their foot, wins the entire prize money. I think it's absolutely genius. But anyway, not that I'm condoning gambling, of course, but it's a great way to do it. So if you want to read the full article, then I'll put the link in the description. But I just wanted to flag up that I'd recently seen the Row2K article, which is actually what spurred me to make this video. But the link's in the description, so make sure and go and see Row2K. It's a great website, lots of info about all the rowing stuff that you need to know about. So the last tip for today is a way to make your legs work harder without having to raise your drag factor, okay? I'm not really a big fan of raising the drag factor in order to make it a harder stroke, because what tends to happen sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes when the weight of the machine gets too strong, they tend to either fight against that weight by bending their arms too soon or by breaking their back too soon because they just can't take the force through. What I'd rather do is something like this. Gonna get a nosebleed up here. So this is a bit excessive, but I want to show you kind of what you can do with this idea. So by raising the back of the machine, I'm now having to fight against gravity. On every stroke, I'm having to push my bulk uphill to the back of the machine rather than that small kind of rake that you get. So I'm gonna have to make my legs work a lot harder without changing drag factor and without changing like the weight of the machine. So I'm not gonna run the risk of having to pull against it with my arms if I'd raise to the top. So the point being that you get into the front, you drive, push yourself uphill slightly, and it's a much tougher workout, especially over like a half-hour session, than a normal flat machine. Now what can happen is, because you're fighting against gravity, as you roll down, there's a risk of over-compression. Remember, you want your shins to be at vertical, but because of gravity, there's a chance you can go way past that. So don't injure yourself by over-compressing. That said, if you're having problems with your compression, it might help. It also helps holding that forward lean forwards, because again, gravity is kind of holding you there. So that might help with the sensation of the forward lean. But mostly, it's about improving the leg workout. Now, if you're going to do this, make sure and use something stable, okay? I've done it the daft way. I'm up on a toolbox, but maybe a couple of weight plates. Don't stack up weight plates, but maybe one or two. Or if you've got like a stepper, you know, the Reebok step things that you can raise modular wise. One of them's even better because you can put it low at the bottom, and then as you get used to it, you can raise it up one, up one, up one. And it's just a good thing to come back to from time to time, just to say, right, I want a bit more of a leg workout. I don't want to raise my drag factor. I'll just lift the back up a little bit, and you change the forces on your body without risking injury or, like I say, breaking your technique by having to bend your elbows and things. So anyway, so that's the end of the tips for this video. Let me know if you enjoyed them. Make sure and check out some of the RowAlong workouts as well, where I basically just kind of motivate you, distract you, keep you company for a few rowing sessions. I've got plans and things on there as well. So make sure and check the rest of the channel for them. Thank you so much for coming along and spending time with me in this one. I will see you in another video. Stay safe, be well, bye-bye.